Hit the button.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And happy Independence Day, everybody. Welcome to our Daily Gun Show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific for about an hour or 90 minutes each day. We talk about 3 gun-related topics each day, different topics throughout the week. We run it live on YouTube, and we simulcast it over at gunchannels.com, where we're watching the live comments that are coming in from the people that are watching us live. Not sure on a holiday like this one how many people actually show up, but we thank the people that do. Every once in a while, we'll take the audios from the shows and post them on iTunes as a podcast. So we appreciate everybody that listens to the show now and in the future. If you would, leave us some feedback wherever it is you watch the show. That lets us know what platforms you're on and hopefully encourages the platforms to recommend our shows to more listeners. And that's always our goal, to keep the show growing. So we appreciate that favor. There's 4 hosts. 3 of us are here today. We got Bob jumping in from Canada. Thanks for joining.
Hey, glad to be here.
And then we got Dano jumping in from Illinois.
Today?
Oh, we broke up a little bit there. And then I'm down here in Arizona. Don't know where Smeggy is. Maybe he'll jump in. Otherwise, we are on episode number 347. We'll be doing Second Amendment issues today. Well, I guess the best rebuttals to the militia clause, whatever that topic is you wrote in there, that's like 2 paragraphs long. And then I figured for State of the State, we would just do the USA today. Of course, all our normal stuff, our gun shop of the day and whatnot. But before we dig into all that stuff, we usually take a break at the beginning of the show to see if anything happened overnight, talk about anything that might have happened.
I actually was on a Netflix jag last night, so I didn't see anything going on.
You were watching Jag on Netflix?
No, I was on Netflix jag. I was just watching Netflix.
Not even like an actual show, just going through and watching the various menus on Netflix for hours and hours. What were you watching?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much that was it. No, it was some space drama. I watched the first season and second season. Now I'm watching the third one, I think it is. 3
seasons in, you won't tell us? He's either embarrassed or
I don't remember actually what the title is. One of those, Netflix.
Battlestar Galactica?
No, it's about these people who woke up and don't have any memories. And
Serenity?
No.
Woke up and don't have any memories. I don't know if I know that.
Right, and they're all like this crew that didn't know who each other was, and then the whole thing is some of them were criminals, some of them were good people, blah blah blah. Really weird show.
All right, great review, thanks. So, I don't know. Has anything else been going on in guns that we should be talking about?
Well, I have something that guys are done that I just want to read briefly. Today being July 4th, the Declaration was formed and adopted by 12 colonies. After minor revision, New York, the 13th colony, approved it on July 19th. On August 2nd, the Declaration of Independence was signed. The American War for Independence would last for 5 years. Yet it come to the Patriots' triumphs at Saratoga, the bitter winter at Valley Forge, the intervention of the French, and the final victory at Yorktown in 1781, that in 1783, with the signing of the Treaty of Paris in Britain, the United States would formally become a free and independent nation.
So don't you guys have some big day where you thank France for saving you all?
We've been saving them every war since.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have been able to do that if they hadn't saved you first. You should be thankful for them.
We've been paying penance in every war they seem to get themselves into.
They made it easier for us. There's no history to say that we wouldn't have still won. They definitely made it easier, and we appreciate it. Like
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if Britain didn't have all their or most of their professional soldiers fighting the French over in Europe, that you guys would have defeated the British colonial troops that were left here.
Well, there's no love lost between us and the Germans, also known as the Hessians.
We were going to enslave the Canadians. Use that slow.
Oh, please, you guys didn't have it. You've tried so many times, you lost every time. Just give it up.
That's what our plan was, to enslave the Canadians, use that slow workforce to eventually build a bridge over there so it make it easier for us to take over.
Yeah. Hey, as long as we get our benefits, we'll work like dogs, man. Believe me. Go look at Aunt Canadian working out in the oil rigs.
Benefits, public slaves to the government tit.
Oh, please. Ours is just more efficient.
We'll work hard. We'll be good slaves if you just give us one more suckling.
All right. Why don't we move on with the show then? So it's been Independence Day after all. So
you got me going. Now I'm on fire.
It's
It's
our second day of the week, so it's our Second Amendment Day. Starting off the discussions with Second Amendment issues: lawyers writing legislation to line their pockets. I didn't see that one. Is that right? No. What am I doing? Today is best rebuttals to the militia clause. Yeah, I was trying to work on future shows there. Okay, so best rebuttals to the militia clause. Smeggy acted like he was really interested to talk about this one. I think the best one I've heard is whenever somebody's going to bring up part of the Second Amendment that says a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the free state, being necessary to the security of a free state, then to somehow suggest that has to do with any kind of organized group, then I suggest, why is it the singular place in the entire Constitution, let alone the Bill of Rights, that refers to the state? Except for deliberately prohibiting the state from doing something, why would that be the one and only place in the entire Constitution, written document, and the Bill of Rights where right is enumerated for the state?
And you also have to look at the language it was written in, the day it was written in, and the way it's the punctuation and everything is in it. If you have an understanding of how people used to speak English, it's very clear that they were talking about one thing and then they talked about another that was the same genre, that the people have to have that right to own and bear arms if you're even going to have a state militia. Not that the only reason that people can have guns is to be in the state militia. The only reason you can have a state militia is to have a population that's allowed to own guns. That's the way I read it, but I'm Canadian. So.
You are, because it's not that the government allows us to own guns. It's that we told the government, you're specifically prohibited from infringing on our individual right to own guns.
So Bob, step out of the room. We'll let you know when you're allowed back in.
The important difference.
The rule stating that this law, this Constitution, says that you can. Well, isn't the Constitution considered a law? There's a Constitution that says you're allowed to own and bear arms, or you're allowed to keep and bear arms. That's it. Keep and bear arms.
No, quit saying that. We're not allowed anything. Being born, it gives us the ability. The Constitution.
I believe that too. I think it's a human right to be able to defend yourself with whatever.
The Constitution allows anything. The Constitution protects. It forbids the government from infringing on them.
And there's my problem. Is I was misunderstood. Like you're saying, it forbids the government from doing that. That's fine. I love though. That's the way I was confusing the way the Constitution's written to the way the laws are written. Now, the Constitution is just a statement that the government is not allowed to do these things, right? So it's a law, but it's a law to the government. And I just, yeah,
I would.
I didn't, yeah, I was misunderstanding the way it was perceived, shall we say. I'm
I would
bad.
just like to throw out there for as grist to the mill, and this is not necessarily my opinion. This is just something that I'm reading from. Is these are 3 different variations of the word militia. The first, and these are not in any particular order, is a military force that is raised from the civilian population to supplement a regular army in an emergency. That's one. Another is a military force that engages in rebel or terrorist activities, typically in opposition to a regular army. That's another. And the third is all able-bodied civilians eligible by law for military service. And I think what it demonstrates is that even in today's society, we have words with multiple meanings. Some dramatically different, some just slightly different, depending on the context that it's used in. And since none of us were in the room when they were discussing this before they wrote it down, can truly know absolutely the context. We can make certain assumptions based on logical inferences. But I can't say I know for a fact. I can say I strongly suspect this is what they mean. But that would be it.
All right. Well, at that point, I mean, I don't know where we go from here.
Yeah, I just wanted to explore the word militia because that's typically the one that causes the most consternation when going over the Second Amendment.
You know, I thought it was the fact that they were tying together that the Constitution was only guaranteeing the right of a state militia from me, or to be able to own and bear a firearm. Whereas, you know, the proper way, because of the pronunciation and the not pronunciation,
those two words do not appear together in the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
I mean, the word militia does, but state militia do not appear together.
Okay. Well, militia. But same thing that they're.
Well,
the leftists are trying to say that all the Constitution guarantees is the right for a militia to be armed, and that's not the way it reads. I mean, if you read it, it doesn't read that way. It reads that, you know, that you can have a militia, and that the people have a right to be armed. You know.
But a militia can simply be your neighborhood, the area of town that you can easily get around to. Or if you live in a very small town, maybe it's your entire town. Maybe it's just, you know, you and your neighbors on your block. But, you know, and that's where and then there's another difference is the difference between natural law, which is what G. Webbs was talking about earlier. That's something that, you know, but by virtue of just being alive, that you have certain rights. And the right to self-defense is one of them. You don't have to lay down and give up your life to a predator. And in our world, in a first world country, predators tend to be two-legged. That you have the right to defend yourself.
So is any other interpretations of that militia part that you've seen before?
I just looked up something just so we could get the conversation rolling.
Something more, or what were you talking about?
Well, I mean, just to get the conversation of the Second Amendment going for the, like, you know, we could also talk about, you know, bear arms.
Well, we could.
You know,
go into the topic is the militia clause part of it, and the arguments that have been made that the militia clause is somehow relevant or put some kind of stipulation. Cycle is saying there on the gun channel side. Where'd it go? that the colloquial definition of militia from the period, and also due to the comma, the first phrase does not limit the second phrase.
Yes. Now, looking back historically, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, so feel free to argue with me, as I'm sure you will. It seems to me that when everything changed, as far as traditional militia to today's National Guard, is when the states decided to accept federal money for maintaining, training, and recruiting the state's forces. Because that's when the state gave up the right to call up those forces to a national purpose, not just a state purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that we had the anniversary of the Guards not too long ago, whenever the Guard became a national thing. But I think it's worth looking into that history, because it probably is at least somewhat pertinent to what we're talking about with the militia cause there.
Yes, because that, that is / was, depending on how you look at it, as traditionalist. When I shouldn't say traditionalist, but when some people look at the Constitution, they look at the National Guard as, oh, that's the militia. And yes, their roots do come from the militia, but that's really a one-off.
But you could say that, but you could also say the entire army and every other military branch comes from militia. You could say all police come from militia. I mean, in the same way. So it's not as though it's the only thing and it came from and it's the only result of, which would give that position that they are the militia, like Mark Cloud or whatever. It's just one piece of the stuff that came from that original militia.
Right.
And that's just a factor of having 3.5 million people in the country instead of a couple of 100,000.
Right. And the other was, which kind of relays into this indirectly, is the conclusion of the Civil War, as far as the power of the states, i.e. the militia, and federal powers.
Well, I think it'd be worth having somebody on sometime who actually knows about this stuff and the causes and effects of it all and the interrelations of it. So that would be interesting to have, but I don't know it. We're just here talking about the arguments that we've heard, people using the militia portion of the Second Amendment as some sort of a weird angle on discouraging the Second Amendment's real meaning. So I know I've heard some others, I just can't think of them, but I'm going to suggest let's keep moving since we kind of covered
Sure.
this. Anybody that's got any ideas, though, we do these segments not to, give you every single aspect of it. Obviously, we're not researching it ahead of time. We don't have the resources or the time to do anything like that. But we do want to bring up conversation that isn't necessarily dictated by the agenda-based media that's out there. We're not just going to do a topical show that bounces around based upon what the media tells us to talk about. We just like to talk about Second Amendment issues. Obviously, today being Independence Day, we're talking about Second Amendment stuff. It all kind of coincided today. So anyway, we're going to move along to the next segment of the show, which I guess has nothing to do with Second Amendment so much. But before we do, we like to take a break between the first and second segments of the show each day. We feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a place we built. It's a community. It's focused on firearms, and there's lots of stuff to do over there. So since it's completely driven by the members, we like to focus on one of the members each day. And today it's Philly 1911. I just was filling out all the stuff for the shows over on YouTube, and I looked over, and Philly was already waiting to watch the show. So just picked him there. So I don't know if I can recall having him in a live chat before. But for being out there, thanks for being a member. And it's not all about the people that are jumping around yelling and shouting all the time. There's a whole bunch of people that make the place happen, and you're one of them. So thanks for that.
Yeah, right on. Actually, that's that's a good idea. Is like bring these new members and let them know that they're all appreciated. All the members are appreciated, but new ones are cool just because it's a new point of view. Some of us have been here talking our asses off forever.
And by default, being a U.S. member, you're automatically appreciated like 50% more than the international members.
Oh, piss off.
So then why don't we go on to this huge one, and Dano can read it since he typed all this in here. What's this topic all about?
Here, I was actually one time I was scrolling through my subscription feed. I saw a couple of videos, nothing I was really interested. And every once in a while, I'll click to the main page where it has like suggested videos. And there was a guy had a couple of videos on point shooting, and I realized that that's not something that, at least today, we necessarily really hear a lot about as being a practical option or not, and when is it a practical if it is. And if you do think it might be practical, where would one go to get training on how and when to use point shooting?
Just to get the basics, you go to your gun range and don't use your sights and just point the gun and shoot it, and then figure out where that's hitting and continue it. And then you can know, okay, when I just point here, I'm hitting there. So if I just point there, I'll hit there. And then you figure out till you're hitting the middle of the target, and it's all good.
Well, I'll throw out the question: Is it that simple? Is it as simplistic as Bob is framing it?
I guess if your range doesn't have a roof.
Who points that far off the target? I mean, literally. I mean, first time I ever tried it, I was
yell louder. Yell louder. That'll stop us from getting this evening. Well, so what I was talking about is kind of pulling the firearm, your sidearm, out of its holster, barely pulling that barrel muzzle off of the holster, and then rocking back and taking a shot from your hip, correct?
No. I'm talking about.
I'm not talking about. I'm asking Dano. So why are you?
Okay, I didn't hear the Dano part.
Okay, so restate the question again.
All right, so you're talking about somebody who's going to draw. They pull their sidearm up out of their holster just enough for the muzzle to reach the top of the holster. Then they rock back and then point that muzzle down range and take a shot from their hip. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that is one type, and I have been taught that. But in this video that I was watching, he was going to both right outside the holster like that, as well as if it was, let's say, 10 feet or more, going to full extension with no sights.
Oh, so you're talking more the people that take their sights off the gun, they just shave the sights off?
Well, he took them off just to prove the concept that he wasn't cheating.
All right, so
because
we're just talking about.
There's the philosophy of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I think of point shooting is what I'm talking about from the hip there, where you're just using your body, I don't know, muscle memory to figure out where the bullet's going to go. You're talking about pulling it out to full extension. That's aiming. That's just somebody who can aim really fast. And if there's a difference between somebody who can consistently pull it out in front and take a shot way faster than somebody else, and then somebody who's just point shooting, I don't know if the robots can tell the difference or not, but Jerry Micklick's going to look like he's just point shooting, but I suspect he's just really fast and can get his sights on target. You're not hitting aspirins and stuff point shooting.
No, and point shooting isn't designed for that. Point shooting is something they used to teach in the military. In the let's see if I remember my history right, it was in the SAS and the early OSA or whatever you guys had. But it was something that was taught by these old gunfighters, and it was just a matter of, you didn't think about picking up your sights. You didn't worry about that. You pointed your hand, And at anything under 10 or 15 feet, if once you learn to point your hand like that, the gun's an extension of your hand. You just point and shoot, and you will hit in the target area. You're not going to shoot bullseyes, although some of them did. But it's just a matter of practice. It's like anything, if you practice enough, you're just going to poke that one point, and this is what they used to teach. And it's not hard to learn. It's don't look at your sights, just extend your hand, extend the gun, fire. Right? Try you can do it without even looking. You're looking at your target, not the sights, right? You're just concentrating on that target, on where you want to hit. It's the same, I guess, basic theory of you look where you want to drive, not where you're going, right? You have to turn with a gun, but anyway, you look at where you want to go, and your hand, as a natural extension, will point. I mean, just like you can point your finger at something. That's what I understand point shooting to be. So maybe I got a different understanding or something.
So are you also saying that there's no aspects to that you could benefit from being taught from somebody who's been doing it for years? It's just something that, like a duck to water, doesn't need to be taught.
No, I'm saying that you can teach yourself to do it yourself. Getting taught to do it is a much better way to do it. Like I say, when they were teaching the people they were dropping into France, like the spies and that, right? They didn't have time to take them through a long marksmanship course, and that wouldn't necessarily be to their benefit, the kind of things that were going to happen to them. So they were taught, I think it was a Hong Kong police officer. Damn, I wish I could remember their names. But anyway, they were taught to do basically.
I believe the name of that officer was Hong Kong Fooey.
And it was a dog.
No, he was a British guy. They were taught to do instinctual
a dog with a hat and a coat.
Okay. So anyway, it is an instinctual thing. It's like pointing your finger, and that's the way they taught it. And that's what I've always thought of point shooting. Now, if there's a different version of it that you guys are talking about, like that drawing out of the holster, I always think of that as fast draw. I don't think of that as point shooting, because you can teach yourself to do it, sure, but it had nothing to do with any kind of draw. It was basically how to just point a gun and hit your target at reasonable ranges. That's all I got for now.
All right, my issue is, I guess, is point shooting for self-defense at 10 to 25 yards a real and practical option versus using sights? Are you going to go into court with enough confidence in justification and whatnot and skill and credentials, I guess, to be able to say that you did that's what your actions were and that's why, as opposed to like pretty much every other training doctrine out there, use front sight, concentrate on the front sight, know your target, what's behind it, and all that stuff. And I don't know, I just don't see that being, I don't care about in real life practicality, French resistance or whatever. This is point shooting for self-defense at 10 to 25 yards a real practical option. I consider practical meaning in real life, and that real life we have to deal with courtrooms and attorneys and people that are scrutinized with 20/20 hindsight every single thing that we did. And if you choose to casually choose a type of technique that, what do you say, doesn't even, I don't know, that would seem absurd to some people at the surface, then I don't see it going down. I don't see that being practical. It's legal.
I'd like to throw.
You could justify it.
I would just say I'd like to throw an aspect into that conversation, since you were talking about after the fight, and assuming that we're not talking about Hong Kong Fooey in this conversation, but that if you have the misfortune of hitting a bystander, and you've been a proponent
Hong Kong Phooey? Don't you mean gun Phooey?
Of this sort of
Oh my God!
there we go. The show has officially broken down.
That was a good cartoon. It's on enough kung fu cartoons with dogs that are also comedies and with police.
Yeah. Yes, it was a pretty cool cartoon back in the day.
And he drives around a police car.
Yep. All right. But you know, if you do have the misfortune of hitting a bystander and you've been an active verbal proponent of sight shooting, is that going to hurt you in the courtroom? Saying that, yeah, I don't use my sights when I shoot, as you tell a jury of your peers.
Because I don't need to.
It's being reckless.
What I point at.
No,
you're being reckless. It's like you're going to take that extra second to line up your sights or however long it takes. If you're being attacked at close range, you're going to point shoot. I'm sorry, you are. You're going to point that gun at that person who's like 5 feet away, and you're going to empty it.
That's great, Bob. So guess what? Let's say that person was across the Circle K or whatever your convenience store is, and it wasn't at 6 or 8 feet, and then you used your sights, and then in the course of figuring out how to do the case with you against you, the prosecuting attorney sees that you're a big advocate of not using your front sights, and then all of a sudden your clean-cut case of self-defense turns into a big drawn-out defending your choice of concealed carry classes and your advocacy of this technique, when it didn't even need to be an issue if you would have just simply gone with the, I don't know, more, I'm going to say, like, established.
Well, I don't know. Now you're making the person, like, instead of, like, I kind of thought the question was learning how to point shoot pointless, and I'm like, of course not. You know, it's a good skill to learn. I don't, like, if I've got to take a 100-yard shot to save some woman that's about to get hacked with an axe, I'm not going to point shoot. I'm going to use my sights and hope for the best. But you know, do I advocate that to be the only training you ever take? Well, of course not. You know, I advocate training in all different disciplines.
Wait a minute. I'm going to call you out right there. Somebody has asked me outside of here, when you mentioned training.
Yeah.
Other than your Eastern Asian training, what training have you had, Bob?
None, because I can't get it for free and I'm cheap.
Well, okay, it just, you periodically do refer to it, and I just want to...
Oh, no, I'm just saying, I'll refer to training and say that I would love to have, hey, look, I'm willing to do any training class somebody will give me for free. I am not going to spend my hard-earned dollars, because I spend half my time up in Canada, where it's absolutely superfluous, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what gun training I have, I won't have a gun. So,
well, a willingness to do it and doing it are two very different things, and you still can have a firearm in your home, even if it is in a safe, so it's not superfluous.
Yeah, but that's when I've got a 12-gauge shotgun, and pretty much I'm in my home, so, yeah.
And what, that's a magic talisman? A 12-gauge shotgun?
Fucking rights it is.
Now that's magical thinking, which is borderline...
It's not magical, man. It's the most destructive, like, small arm in the world at close range.
It's a mental defect. Magical thinking is a mental defect, Bob.
I don't think it's magic. I just know what it can do.
Well, you're saying because you have a shotgun, you don't need any sort of training.
No. I said I'm willing to take any kind of training. I say it's just not financially responsible of me to take training that is, you know, probably at least 75% of the time going to be useless to me.
So in our many, many decades on this earth, you have never had the opportunity to have a spare couple $100 to go take a class. You're telling me that's the truth in all the years you've been on this earth?
Dude, that's 99.99% of the people. Yeah, for sure.
Of course not. I mean, you know.
Almost nobody up trains for almost anything unless they're getting paid to or they're seriously, like, interested in it.
No, but in this case, Bob is saying he's willing to. That's the difference. Bob is saying he's willing to.
If I was independently wealthy, I would live in the States and I would take every firearms course I could take. I would have the coolest, neatest carry gun in the world. I would live where, carry was just accepted. And I would have every permit I could get so I could go everywhere in the states that allowed it and have carry. But I don't. So
since when is knowledge free?
Well,
it either takes time going to a library
I learned
or money investing in an educator to teach something.
You can get a lot of free knowledge off YouTube. Now you have to weed out what's good, what's bad. That's why it's really cool to belong to a place like Gun Channels, where you can go, oh, what about this video? Oh, that guy's just full of shit. I wouldn't listen. And then you hear that from maybe 5 or 6 other people. You go, yeah, maybe I shouldn't listen to his videos, or maybe I shouldn't take all his advice without a grain of salt. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can get all kinds of free knowledge from free sources, but like real training, like what you've paid for and what G-Webs has paid for and done, for me, it's just not. I mean, it would be like, oh, I'm going to buy a supercar and I live where there's only dirt roads.
And don't go. I would use that. That's not such a great analogy for you and all your 460 engines.
Well, I don't know where you found out that exact measurement, Dano, but
fired on that one, Bob.
Oh, I don't know.
You brag all the time about how I got this giant engine in this vehicle, and I used to have a
Dano. I'm talking about my gun laws versus yours, right? Like if you compare roads to gun laws,
we're not doing
roads. You have pavement. Why would I own a supercar?
This got from point shooting to Canadian dirt roads as an analogy to our gun laws. So let's rein that one in. And
yeah, I'm just trying to make Dano understand. It's hard sometimes.
All right, so we're gonna head into.
The guy that thinks that life is free.
That was a good one.
I can't believe it. And the thing is it's so easy to defeat your well, I don't have enough money, since we're almost about the same age, as there's very little difference other than where you were born, where I was born, and mindset.
Well,
that's the difference.
Let's take a break then, since hopefully we're talking to some people that are content creators or have some aspirations to create their own content. Maybe they just want to check out some classes and they're looking for ways to do that without paying a lot of money. One way you can do that to help the instructor is to audit the class. So if you are creating content on a blog or YouTube or gun channels or Facebook or even Instagram, as long as you're creating some kind of regular content that has value, that you can really help people out, helps them spread the word, and you cost very little to sit in the class and take notes, maybe a picture or two, and depending on the instructor, even ask a question or something. So you're going to get 90% of the information from the class, and most of the time you're not going to take their time or energy to shoot the qualifiers or anything like that. But big deal, we've all shot before. So you're not going to get your, you're not going to be dealing with their paperwork or their fingerprinting or anything like that. If you're talking about a CCW class, if you're talking about a shooting class, you're not going to be wasting their time, on the line. But you're able to get a lot of information about the course curriculum. You'll be able to take a lot of cool pictures, which again will help let other people make a decision if it's the kind of class they want to go to based on maybe the range and the, the type of size of the class, the number of assistant instructors, maybe do some sort of an interview arranged maybe during lunchtime or something to do a quick interview with them. Anyway, these are ways that you can provide value to the instructor and future students while experiencing training of any level, from CCW up to the really fancy stuff, and then add content in your own channel, and everybody wins. And that's a way to experience some training without out of pocket. You're still gonna have to get yourself to the range, you still have to eat lunch and stuff, but lot cheaper than actually shooting the class. Anyway, so just a little side there for people that might actually be like Bob, that want to take some stuff but don't have a bunch of cash. I know I've been in that situation. Worked out pretty good for me doing that.
Right. But Bob is not 18. And that's why, and that's, I know we're trying to move it along, but I'm trying to say, and that's why I said, in all the decades since he's been 18, I am positive that there was a time or two that he had an extra couple $100, $200, $300. They're not all $500 to take a class.
But there aren't any classes in Canada. We don't have concealed carry. Like I've had, hunting courses. I've had to take the firearms exam, that kind of thing. But there aren't any classes, right? There aren't any concealed carry pistol courses. I mean, they're just not.
Well, gotcha. I understand there aren't any legal classes, but it is my understanding that you do have the ability to travel. In fact, you have traveled. Not just barely over the border, but almost to the Mexican border. In fact, I'm pretty sure you had numerous opportunities for drive-by training. Well?
All right, well, let's not training shame people. Training is interesting, but it isn't.
Oh, God, it's so hard. He's just so hard.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
All right, so then I guess let's move on to another subject. Let's see, what do you guys want to do next?
I don't know.
I'm having too much fun.
Scared now.
All right, well, I guess let's do the gun movie of the day. I don't know if this has anything to do with 4th of July. It really doesn't. We probably could have picked a better one. So if somebody out there wants to pick a better 4th of July movie that isn't born on the 4th of July, then let us know. Otherwise, we'll do Mr. and Mrs. Smith real quick. Have you guys even seen this movie? With what's her name and that guy from?
Yeah, that's actually Oh God, that was back when I paid attention to shit.
Red and Jolie, Angelina Jolie.
Red Jolie. Yeah.
See, they're spies, sort of.
Yeah, well, they're both assassins, and they don't know that they're both assassins until they get a contract on each other, and then things get really freaky.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it. I guess I'll give it a thumb up. I might be persuaded to give it 2 for some reason, but I don't think I would, so I'm going to give it 1. It's the kind of movie you can watch Saturday.
It is kind of entertaining in regards to, yeah, they're both keeping the secret that they're both a secret assassin from each other, and they both think that they're keeping the secret until the movie begins. And then the secret slowly unwinds during the movie, in which they have to essentially protect each other and save themselves. But when they're hired by competing agencies to literally kill one another.
All right, well, now we've just spoiled everything, so now you don't even have
ruined it real bad. Yeah, no, I was trying to keep it kind of, low key, but yeah, you go into all the details.
That's not the end of the movie.
All right. So, your thumbs are down.
The end of the movie is what you don't give away.
So, how many thumbs are we giving it?
I'll give it 2 thumbs. It's both on the entertainment front and the gun front.
Like I said, it's tough for me to only give it 1 because I am kind of on the fence, but I don't think it does justice to all the other 2 thumbs. So I'm going to just give it the 1, but it's a strong thumb.
I'm gonna give it 1, but because of Angela Jolie, I'm going to give it 1 hard thumb. So.
All right, so we saw that coming. So that's what you get. That's what we get.
That's what we get with having Bob in here.
So we try to talk about a gun-related movie every day. We're always looking for more movies. So if you want to throw in a list, feel free to email it to us at dailygunshow@gmail.com. Just send us a list of movies. We throw them in the schedule. Then it's fun to talk about them. The idea is to tell you about a movie you haven't seen in a while. So if you're browsing through the Netflix or the Amazon or whatever it is, and we just remember the show and you go, oh yeah. So we'll talk about the ones that are coming up when we can. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish. Sorry. My bad.
I'll put my coat on.
All right. Here we go. It's time. It's time. It's time for the Tactical Pop Quiz. Yes, so put your cursors down in the text box, limber up your fingers. G-Webs, have you seen the answer, and are you available to help today?
Yes.
All right. The question is a multi-part question. You must put all parts in the same line and in the correct order. Okay. Again, in the same line, in this correct order. I will read the question twice.
Dano, just before you start, like, you want them to put them all in the same order, though, right?
Jesus, Bob. Yes. 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 All right. The question is as follows. What does OODA loop stand for? Once again, what does OODA loop stand for? OODA. OODA loop.
Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops
Stand for.
that are upside down.
Nothing coming down either side.
Where's our operators?
Nothing.
You're the only one around right now, Dano.
We've stumped them. Nobody can even look it up, I guess.
Oh, New Throne Clay, I think.
Yep. So on the YouTube side.
Yep, on the YouTube side, New Throne Clay, congratulations. You are our Tactical Pop Quiz winner for today. It is Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. That's something that I think at some point we ought to have as a 20-minute piece.
That seems like a lot of work.
Although, yes, it would require a little bit of show prep. Just, 5 minutes.
Where does this OODA loop come from?
Takes me 5 minutes to look up a quote, dude. I called Dano dude.
Where does it come from?
Yeah.
It comes from a United Air Force colonel from, I believe it was the Korean War. Refers to the decision cycle to observe, orient, decide, and act by Air Force Colonel John Boyd. So that's where it comes from. It's the decision-making cycle.
So, and that's from Korean War, you said?
I believe so.
So the pilot,
I could be wrong. It could be Vietnam, but I thought it was Korean.
So the pilots basically can further evaluate their decision-making process and get better at it. So you evaluate what you're actually doing so that you can figure out what pieces of it you need to do better at. And you know what your other human being that you're fighting with is doing, so you know ways that you can do things to screw with what they're doing, knowing how they're going to have to react. It's good stuff.
It actually is.
Yes.
Goofy
there are some examples that I won't bring up today, but if we do it as a 20-minute cycle, I will bring up, which it's going to sound like nonsense, but it's literally to make the person take that 1 or 2 seconds and lose time by saying, what the hell is he saying? What? I mean, to get them confused just for 2 seconds. Now that's 2 seconds you can use to your advantage.
Well, and sometimes it's like it's a verbal slap. So if someone is intent on doing something and you can OODA loop them to where it's not the normal, causing or, the normal cause of effects or whatever that would normally happen for that person. Or what is that? What am I trying to say there? The normal situation for the person, then it causes them to stop and reevaluate. And that could literally give you time to move away or them to rethink the whole situation. So it's interesting to know where you can, different little things you can do to mess with people's concentration, I guess, really, and catch them off guard and make them rethink what they're doing.
Right.
But, I see it as the OODA loop is, if you're on guard duty with somebody and you're it's been hours or whatever, and instead of saying, "Hey, it's your buddy," you go, "Uno," and then he'll just go, "Oh, that's a weird noise, weird sound." I guess it's kind of like what you're saying, and then he'll think, "Observe," right?
That's exactly what I would expect out of somebody with no training.
Are you talking? Well, that sounds exactly like Canadian training, Canadian fighter plane training.
Oh, please.
They just don't have to wake up. All right, so that was.
So, Bob, you can do your thing. This is your big chance.
Let me get Smeggy in here. Let me text Smeggy.
Apparently, Bob's not up to being. He says he loves to do it, but then he doesn't do it.
Wait, what? No, then it's what is it?
What is it?
What day is this? What's going on? What happened?
Oh, is that? Oh,
what do I got?
You gotta give me a nudge, guys. Right? I guess.
I'm trying to
be throwing clay.
Ever think of telling him, Dan?
Tactical.
What did we just finish doing?
We
finished the tactical pop quiz.
All right, enough. Shut up, Dano. You're making me mad. I have to come to Michigan or wherever the hell you are.
Oh my goodness. Did it happen? Or are you going to do it again?
I did it. I said that makes you the tactical hot shot of the day.
All right. That's what I want to hear, damn it.
Oh my goodness. I apologize. And this is our Independence Day show.
No kidding, right? Why are you guys screwing up so bad? I don't understand.
Because
it's not something to be humbled.
It's Meggy's fault. Oh my God. It is. It's Meggy's fault. Holy shit.
Let me put it this way. Right now, I think Z is on a beach somewhere, and he has a tear at the corner of his eye after hearing that.
Oh, shut up. Right? Shut up.
Thinking that that's what he's left us.
He's got a surfboard sticking in the sand, and then one of them old 60s plastic radios sticking in the sand with the antenna sticking up, and he's listening to the show on that.
Yeah.
Just shaking his head.
Somebody's transmitting our show in Hawaii on radio?
I'm sure what that happens. I'm sure that happens. So we're going to get into the state of the state. Every week, on the second day of the week, we feature one of the states and talk about their situation with firearms. And since today's Independence Day, I figured let's do the state of the USA, all the states. So I'll give Dano a minute. He'll go look up all 50 states' Wikipedias real quick, and then he'll read off all the states' Wikipedias.
Yeah. There you go.
When I saw this before the show, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do.
No, I don't think we need to have anything because it's all pretty much in flux all the time, but maybe it's just a good time to reflect on where we're at. We're living in a pretty good time.
I just want to say thank you to Dano for looking up all of the states. And I also want to say, from what I understand, you guys have been doing great as far as constitutional carry and right to carry and stuff like that. Is that you've gained a whole bunch of states and you've actually gained some gun rights. You've lost some, but I think all in all you're doing good, but boy, you could do better. That's just coming from me from looking on the outside, right?
Thanks, Bob. So I guess we're done. That pretty much sums it up.
Well, I mean, I would like to do like a little bit of year in review. As an example, something very recently that just happened a few days ago is, it's a small victory, but we got to take any victory the way we get them. And that's the fact that we have had a stay in the order against California putting their no longer grandfathering large capacity magazines, and that was stayed. And I think that is, it may not be a giant win, it may be a small win, but it is, you take them as you get them.
Dano, I think you have to look at something that just shouldn't even have got there. I mean, the whole concept of it is just wrong. So I don't think that's a win. That's just like, boy, we've held them. That's not a win. It's not a victory when you hold them. It's a victory when you push them down and get rights back for a state. Carry rights. That's a victory.
I can't change the past. I can't influence.
I'm just saying. I don't see that as a victory. I see that as a.
Can you even hear me? Are my lips moving?
It's a tie. It's not a victory.
I was just yelling at us. He feels angry today or something. So I don't know what Dano's trying to say. Dano, try to say it without Bob yelling at you.
Is that we can't change the past. All we can do is influence the future, and that's an example of something positive that's happened in the present.
Right on. And I think what Bob was saying was, at some point at least, that and I guess it depends on what time frame you're looking at, but we're looking at a time when all 50 states have some sort of concealed carry. We don't have to look too far back to when that was not even fathomable, that we knew there was going to be states that would always resist that. So that's not a change of a deliberate group or a deliberate organization's goal and achievement of that goal. That's just the residual effect of a change in overall society. And when we see states like Florida and Vermont and Arizona and Georgia and some of the others that kind of became the first to go to concealed carry, and we saw the good crime rates go down and the lack of any significant issues with that many citizenry carrying firearms, we saw that spread to other states. And as we see it spread to other states, it's just like a lot of things, that there's no, it'd be great if there was a group pushing that. It's just happening, I guess, organically, because it's a good idea and it works. So the same thing with well, I guess I'm talking about CCW, but I would think it's going to be the same thing with other firearms laws. It's going to be tougher and tougher for a state like Michigan or something to say we need to keep track of all pistols when, one, they're not solving any crimes with that burden. Two, they got all this other claim on that money. They got other things they could be spending that money on, and all it takes is then someone to push them and say, hey, how come you're spending all that money on something that's pointless? How come you're spending all that money on it? They're going to look around and go, we're one of like a few states, like 4 states or something, that require this. It's ridiculous. So let's get rid of it. So overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot. We do have some negative things, but I don't think overall we have to consider it a bad time to be a gun owner.
And that's, I think, the point I was trying to make before Dano so rudely interrupted me. That I think it's maybe not, well, it's celebration day for you guys. And I think, one of the things you should celebrate is that you have been gaining ground on the anti-gunners. You have been gaining ground just as a mindset of the American people that, you know what, it's okay to take personal responsibility for myself and go, I know the cops are only going to get here to clean up the mess. So if I get attacked, I want to defend myself. And I think that's a great thing about concealed carry. I think it may be, a reason why you guys have had less terror attacks than European countries. But, like I say, it's there's been some bad stuff happen, like what happened in California is just atrocious. But there's been more positive than negative. So I think you guys are doing okay. Now we do better.
Now, okay, like compared to Canada?
Dano, I'm not going there. I'm just saying, that as a movement in the United States, firearms laws and that haven't, moved that bad. I mean, Canada's are terrible, and I'm sure they're going to get worse unless we get rid of that shithead. But, what am I going to do about it? I do everything I can to get the right people elected, but, there just comes a point where there's too many people live in big cities. So, yeah.
I mean, we are, if not the most free country, we are certainly one of the most free countries in the world. And in fact, our only competition in regards to freedom is to look at our own past when we actually had greater freedom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honest to God, up until the 50s, Canada was pretty much gun, it was freedom with guns, right? You could carry one around, nobody thought anything of it. But something happened, right? liberal government got in power.
I mean, you didn't need concealed carry 150 years ago because anybody could carry, period.
Right.
Try owning a piece of property in North America and not paying your taxes and actually thinking that you actually own your property.
Well, no, I mean, we know that here. I mean, that's the big thing here is we don't own anything other than about a foot below the surface. And if the government decides you've got gravel on your farm and we need gravel for the highways in this area, we're just going to take your gravel.
All right, so let's talk about constitutional carry in the United States instead of Canadian gravel. So we've got this map here at National Review, which is a story from John Lott, I believe, or at least they're interviewing him, and from the Crime Research Prevention Center, I think here in Arizona. Anyway, he's got this map here, and we've got the dark green states are full constitutional carry. So Vermont, of course, the state that's never had any type of firearms law. Then you get Arizona, Idaho, Wyoming, Alaska, another, I think, of the original states to have constitutional carry. Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, I didn't know about that one, and West Virginia, and then Maine. And then you have your light green states, which have limited constitutional carry, and I believe that means constitutional carry for residents, you know, something like that. Montana, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. So it's not a huge majority yet, but definitely, again, if you would have asked about constitutional carry 10 years ago and asked how many states would have it, I think people would look at you funny. So we are living in a time of change, right? I just imagine if you looked at a list of states that have recreational marijuana and medicinal marijuana, it would be even more colored than this one, right? So we're living in a time of change where we're losing the old guard or whatever that's called. You know, the old politicians are kicking the bucket, moving along, and just being rich people or whatever they're doing. And I still say, I brought this up, I think, in one of the Mats chat or Yankees chat. We've got a heck of a lot of guys and girls coming out of the armed services, right? The military, and not to mention just doctors and stuff, people who've been out traveling the world doing good things with, I don't know, Peace Corps, whatever the equivalent is these days, going up into politics. So these are people with a whole different look on the world and a lack of ties with all the industrial military complex bullshit from the past. And I think we got some potential to see all kinds of good stuff in the future. I don't think we're doomed by any means.
I think another Matt, that would be interesting to see is the number of states that have shall issue versus may issue. Because I know a number of states have changed over either from may to shall, or in my particular state, started off with shall. And there we are. Oh.
What'd you do, Dano? Dano broke the internet. No, I can't hear G-Webs.
Oh, I was.
No, I'm actually. No, I'm just watching it. What if you watch it? It's changing the years from the past to the present.
No, not. This is that gift that's been around for a long time. So it starts here in 1986. The May issue is yellow, and the shall issue is blue, and no issue is red. And see how much red there is even in 1995. You see a lot more shall issues in 95 and 97, 99, 2000. Look at that big chunk of red, though. And the red starts to disappear. We got just those two states with unrestricted back in 2009. 2010, 2012, and look at how far is this going to go. 16, 17, brilliant. They just did a new one, so that is a pretty impressive
yes,
little presentation.
Do you happen to know what unrestricted means?
Unrestricted is constitutional carry. So Vermont never had any type of firearms law. Alaska's gone back and forth, so they were one of the first to say, yeah, we don't need one. So it looks like back in 2004, and somewhere around 2009, well, January 30th of 2010, that's when Arizona comes on board, Wyoming soon after, and we get Arkansas. then Kansas and Maine, then a bunch of other states jumped on in 16 and 17. And yeah, like I say, it's momentum. It's once you've got states that are already on board doing it, we see that that leads to other states being able to point to it. That's the whole point of the experiment we have here with 50 individual experiments going on under one big roof.
That's really cool. It like shows me what states to go to so that I can open carry.
Just carry this gift around in your wallet.
Yeah.
Say, look at the picture, officer.
Rob brings the 1996 one, gets arrested. The 1986.
Look at all the red.
So that's the state of the United States, I guess. I guess there's other things we could have looked at. Hey, if you think like, man, these guys suck. They could be talking about so much more in these segments. Like, what's going on? These guys really don't put much time into this show. It's like literally they get here like 15 minutes early and fart around and then start 5 minutes late. And it's just they touch on these subjects that I'm all antsy to hear about. And I wish there was a way that they would change that. Well, there is. You can go over to our Patreon, which is funding platform designed for people who are creating content on a regular basis, like we do every single weekday. We get together for about an hour or 90 minutes, and we do this show. We have 3 gun-related topics every day, and once a month on the second Saturday of the month, we get together with those Patreon supporters, and we schedule the show out for another 30 days into the future. We use the topics that the Patreon supporters give us. We mainline those right into the show. We also have the show live at that point, so we're taking requests from anybody that wants to be there for the scheduling. Of course, we take requests all throughout the month, either during the show like this, while we're live and the people are typing in live, or via email, dailygunshow@gmail.com. But we encourage you to check out that Patreon. It's not just a tip jar because there is no income. We don't have sponsors. We're free to say whatever we want. We're not trying to sell you anything, except maybe a patch once in a while from our own store. But you know, basically, we're doing this. We don't want to be topical. We're not trying to be a news show. We're trying to bring you interesting gun-related type stuff. When Bob and I first started this show, one of the big pieces of it, one of the big features of doing a daily show is that we wanted to feature a new gun shop every single day so we could talk about hundreds of different gun shows every year. I'm about to get in a van and drive around the country visiting new gun shops every single day. So that's going to kick in and be another big portion of the show. Along with that, we're going to be talking to the gun owners' rights groups that are out there in all these different states, like New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and Nevada. And for this first leg of the tour, and hopefully the show will kick in. And if you'd like to support that, if you'd like to put gas in the tank, if you'd like to see us spend more time researching the subjects before we go live, then consider becoming a financial partner with the show. If you know a gun shop that would be interested in supporting the show, point them out.
Mute yourself.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah. So there you go. Super professional. That's us. And anyway, we have a Patreon account there.
Turn myself on.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for unmuting to tell us all about how you do that. So anyway, that ruined the end of it. So now I have to start the whole show over again, I feel like.
Sorry. I'm in a coughing fit. So.
Yeah. Well, with that, I guess we'll move on to the gun shop of the day. As I just mentioned, a big portion of the show is to talk about a gun shop every day. And we've done a pretty good job of it. Of course, we do repeat every once in a while. Here's one that we haven't repeated before. I don't think we've ever talked about this gun shop before. So since it's Independence Day and this is a pretty cool country, the gun shop of the day is you and me, the individual. We don't need to be a gun shop. We can sell guns all the time. And we don't have any obligations other than to be sure that the person isn't a felon or something. So kudos to all of us for having that freedom and doing our part to be vigilant to protect that freedom. And hopefully you're out there enjoying that freedom and taking part in it. If you don't, freedom that's not utilized, is that even a freedom? So hopefully you're selling off guns that you don't use anymore and passing them along to people who appreciate them, using that money to buy new guns. What do you guys think? Individual. Oh, Play is asking if he donates $1,000, will we kick Bob to the curb? For suggesting it, we would probably kick Bob to the
Only
curb.
if I get the money.
So the consideration of it. Are you kidding? We've been looking. Oh man, we were thinking we'd have to pay to get rid of Bob. We were like, how do you get a Canadian exterminator?
Come on, you pay me the money, I'm good, man. I can use it right now. I'm putting a new motor in the van. Still have like even less miles on it than G-Webs.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's the gun shop today. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that. Otherwise, I guess we can go on. So I guess we'll go on. So I don't know if Dano had to take off work or whatever, but
No, I'm here.
all right. So we have a gun of the day we try to do every day. Bob didn't want to do any work this week, so he passed it along all the work off to us. So somebody else even came up with the idea. I think Clover Tack came up with the idea of what gun he's going to wear to his daughter's wedding. So Bob said, "Oh, okay. You guys tell us what you would wear to your daughter's wedding." So, but Dano is telling us he would wear what gun he would wear.
Now, just as a refresher for the audience, Bob, what did you say that you would wear yesterday?
Magnum 500, stainless steel.
Magnum 500, yeah, that's what it was. Smith & Wesson Magnum 500. And the gun of the day that I would choose if I had a daughter to take would be a Colt Python. That would be the firearm that I would want to take in some sort of a open carry, but underneath my jacket piece.
So both y'all are carrying a revolver so big that you got to shoulder rig it.
Yeah. Well, it's about the classiness of it and what it represents. It's not necessarily about modern, takedown or tactical. It's about how classy it is. I think revolvers can be and supersede modern firearms in their, I don't know if this is a word or not, but in their classiness, if done right, including the holster itself.
No, that's definitely
the holster has to be just as high end as the gun.
That's definitely a word. I guess I agree with you. But are we talking? I guess I think Cobra. You said Cobra, right? I'm thinking Cobra. I'm thinking the big long barrel one. Are you talking the smaller one?
The 6-inch.
Okay.
Python, not the Cobra.
Python. Okay.
But
would you be wearing that because it would be the last time you got to wear it before you sold it to pay for your daughter's wedding?
Well, yeah, I might go straight to the pawn shop right after the wedding, but yeah, it's definitely one of those very iconic guns. At least it is to me. As far as when I was growing up, they were still being manufactured and produced. I actually bought the poor man's Python, which is a Smith & Wesson Model 686, when I was 24, 25, 26 years old, something like that. And because the Python was another $250 more than the 686, and I couldn't figure out any upside to it, and neither could the guy that was selling it to me. Now, I did notice the finish difference. That was clear at that time, straight from the factory.
Trigger.
Being a younger guy, imagine even back then I had it was about $600+ that I managed for a gun, let alone a training class. Did I slip backwards in the schedule?
Oh, shut up.
But yes, I would wear a Colt Python to my daughter's wedding.
Okay. Well, no, that's not a bad choice, man. I love the Colt Python. I think it's a beautiful gun. 357 Magnum's a great caliber. And yeah, nothing wrong with your choice, man. Perfectly acceptable and excellent choice.
All right, so that was our gun of the day. We did the gun shop.
Yep.
I think we're done. Do we have any history today? It's 4th of July. That happened.
Yeah.
This day in 1776, 241 years ago, 12 of the 13 colonies.
Bunch of rebels revolted against the lawful government and overthrew it eventually, because because the government that they were overthrowing was actually at war with another country. Oh, sorry, Dano. I thought my mic was off.
Now, I do have a quick pop quiz. It's not a tactical pop quiz, but I'm just curious if anybody remembers out there who's the first to type. What colony did not sign the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July in 1776?
You're asking which colony started out from the gate being a son of a bitch.
Yep.
So it also says that two of the country's founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, died today in 1826. That's interesting. The fifth president of the United States, James Monroe, also died today at age 73, but in 1831. So it's interesting that on the same day that these guys amended the Declaration of Independence, that they died, years later.
Yeah. And Cycle Camp admitted it is New York.
It is not Connecticut.
Correct. It is New York.
Yeah. Well, doesn't that sound right? New York's full of a bunch of wankers.
From the beginning, they were being argumentative about everything.
Yep. Been a thorn in our side ever since.
Today in 1881.
That's the problem.
Today in 1881, Billy the Kid is shot dead in New Mexico.
Seriously? Oh, I didn't know that happened today. Shit. He was one of my heroes.
Did you say he was one of your heroes?
That's what he said.
Yeah. Little short guy.
Today in 1960, the 50-star United States flag made its debut in Philadelphia. 1960.
Thanks to what state?
The 50th state was probably New York. They finally decided to join the Union.
That's pretty good. It was finally New York.
Calvin Coolidge, our 30th president, was born today in 1872. Rube Goldberg, cartoonist. I think he's responsible for those machines, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Born in 1983 today. And then Neil Simon, playwright, 1927. So anyway,
song blue.
Okay,
everybody.
See, you never know what's going to happen. It's not always Bob. It's not always Bob. So we like to look at history, especially on an interesting day like today. Again, we want to thank everybody who's, taking time out before or after a barbecue or whatever. Hopefully you're out there being dangerous and loud and enjoying yourself and, teaching kids bad habits that they can't learn in school. What else is there? I guess we could talk about what shows might or may not be on tonight. Is Night Strike out there? Is there a show tonight, Night Strike? Let us know. And anybody on the on the YouTube side who does shows or anything, Clover Tack, I don't know if you do a show on today or not. Otherwise, this is Tuesday, so Rick from Big Gunner 81 might be doing a show tonight as well, because he sometimes does a show on Tuesday. Well, he does a show on Tuesdays. I don't know if he's going to do it on the 4th of July. And since we quirk or override the Militia Armory show, they would be live as we speak, I guess, if they were live. So check that out. You should always check out Andalusia Armory anyway. It's an interesting show. It's a gun shop in Andalusia, Alabama. They shut down a little early on Tuesdays. They turn the cameras on and they shoot the shit at a table. And it's pretty interesting listening to what's going on in the gun shop. If you don't have that kind of relationship with your gun shop, this is a way to have that kind of relationship with that shop. So you can watch that on Gun Channels. It's Andalusia Armory, spelled with an A. And they're in the thing on that main page of Gun Channels where it goes through and shows you the channels that do live shows. They got a white logo. So nope, he's got something coming up on Wednesday. So thanks for that. And did you see anything from Night Strike? He said already did his show. It's up already. So he pre-recorded a show. Thanks for that. So that'll be going live. You can watch it if you want over there. Still use the chat all you want. Just that the show has actually happened. So you can, Night Strike does that so that he can sit in the audience and watch the show like everybody else and see what it's like from the audience's reactions, like the old movie producers used to do.
Yep. I would like to take an opportunity to make a request. And on the Tactical Pop quiz, we are running very, very close to the end of our questions. So I'm making a request that those of you listening, if you have any questions and answers, to please send them to dailygunshow@gmail.com to help keep the Tactical Pop quiz going. So again, if you have any questions and answers to help us along, please do so and send them to dailygunshow@gmail.com.
And yet I get hassled about, one time asking these guys to put a gun in, right? Then I'm making them do all the work, right? And now he's asking for all the audience to do the work. It's just so...
There's a double standard, but you're Canadian.
Well, no, it's just like wrong, I mean, we're all humans. Come on, Dano, you're...
So Bob the Millennial.
I could Google a list of all guns and just go through A through Z and do gun of the day if I wanted.
Well,
it wouldn't be interesting. You wouldn't know about them. You wouldn't know anything about them. Wouldn't be interesting. I go and pick them out.
So let's move on and give ask another favor of our audience. We get about 30 people a day watching the show. So what we like to do is ask those 30 people that are watching on a regular basis. We assume that most of you are watching the show each day. Consider somebody else out there who might be interested in the show and send them an email, send them a link. Hey, see if you like this, if you think these guys are good or not. We really do want to get more people listening to the show, especially as, I'm going to be spending a bunch of money driving around. That's kind of the point of this show, is to look at a new gun shop every day. The bigger the audience for that, the better. And for lots of reasons, the main one is when we go to these shops and feature them, we want to give them as much coverage as possible. And as on the road, the more people that are listening, the more potential there is that somebody's going to know about one of those cool, unique, interesting gun shops that are off the beaten path, that maybe don't have a website or don't put much effort online. So again, encourage you to spread the word about the show. If it's in an email, if it's posted on Facebook or something, we really do appreciate that. We don't have many viewers, so every viewer is appreciated, and we do appreciate everybody who's helping us with that. I think with that we're done, and we will be back tomorrow with episode 348. Let's see, it'll be Wednesday, so it'll be the entertainment day. We'll do good idea, bad idea, keeping a firearm in the car at all times. What happened? I'm scrolled over too far. And the entertainment segment will be when do practical gun techniques trail off and the movie gung fu techniques begin. So we'll dig into that. Of course, it's Wednesday, so we'll have the hashtag Daily Gun Show Showdown, where we go over to Instagram. We take a look at the people who've been using the hashtag Daily Gun Show. And I'll tell you what, after the donut chats that have been going on the last few nights, and if you haven't been watching, I guess we should have talked about that earlier in the show. There's been some, I would say, close to epic donut chats the last couple of nights. If you're into donut chatting, then you would have been interested in the last couple of nights. There's other topics as well, but when they got into donuts, they got into donuts. Anyhow, there's some donut pictures over there that are going to be in the running. So anyway, if you want to take some pictures of stuff and you're enjoying that and you're using the Instagram to feature those pictures, then consider using the hashtag Daily Gun Show, hashtag Daily Gun Show, to tag your photos. And then on Wednesdays, we get together, Smeggy goes through, and we judge your pictures. And if you win, then all the fame and fortune gets rained down upon you. That'll be tomorrow. Of course, all of our normal stuff, gun shop of the day, movie of the day, gun of the day, every other thing of the day, and anything else that comes up. So I guess we'll see you then.
All right. Well, I guess with that, we're going to wrap it up. We always like to end our shows with a quote. This one today is actually by Daniel Webster. But before that, I want to remind everybody, please like, share, subscribe. By sharing our videos with your friends on Facebook or whatever, you help spread the word that there's just fun people out here talking about firearms. And, hey, makes us all more human. So here's the quote, Daniel Webster. God grants liberty only to those who love it and are always ready to guard and defend it. Now think about that. And we'll see you tomorrow.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.